Once men know about this, all women are finished. They begged me not to share this stoicism. There's a moment every man faces, quiet, humiliating, and brutally honest. It's the moment you realize you've been chasing, not connecting, not leading, just chasing. You text first. You wait hours for replies. You overthink every word, every emoji. You compliment her beauty, hoping it'll earn her attention. But deep down, you feel it, something's off. She's not meeting you halfway. And worse, she doesn't have veto because the game was never built for you to win by chasing. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been with a woman who used to be interested but suddenly grew cold the moment you started showing how much you cared? She didn't reject you right away. She just pulled back. Less texting, less eye contact, more confusion. And inside, you felt this slow sinking shame, like you were trying too hard but couldn't stop. You're not alone. That cycle has broken millions of men without them even realizing why. Here's what no one told you. The moment you give away your emotional power to be chosen, you lose that very attraction you're chasing. And women feel it. They know when they're being ripped, not respected. But there's a flip side. A truth most men never hear and most women won't say out loud. The moment you stop performing, stop chasing, and start standing in your value, everything shifts. Not because you're playing a game, but because you're done handing over your worth for temporary validation. That's when women start chasing you. That's when the balance of power flips and stays flipped. This video will show you how to get there. Let's begin. Number 1. Stop chasing beauty. Let's get this straight. 1. Stop chasing beauty. Chasing beauty isn't masculine, it's desperate. When a man orbits a woman, just because she's attractive, he hands over his power. And no matter how subtle he thinks he's being, she feels it. That, for her attention, that need for validation in her smile or her silence. It leaks out in every look, every word, every hesitation. Take Rick, 48, divorced 3 years ago, successful business owner, solid guy. Met a woman named Vanessa, 45, on a dating app. She was gorgeous, and Rick fell fast. The texts became daily. He complimented her constantly, told her she was stunning, radiant, breathtaking. She smiled at first, but a few weeks in, things shifted. She started replying slower. Cancelled plans. Rick was confused. You've done everything right. He said, No, Rick, you did everything charming, not grounded. Here's the problem. When Eamon leads with admiration for beauty, he puts her on a pedestal, and no woman wants to stay there. Because on that pedestal, there's no depth. She's being watched, not seen. She's being praised, not met. We've been trained to believe equals value, but that's a trick. Beauty might get your attention, but it doesn't earn your effort. And if that's all you're responding to, you're signaling to her, I'll perform for you, just choose me. That's not leadership, that's auditioning. Stoic philosopher Epicurus once said, only the educated are free. And in this context, education means waking up from cultural hypnosis. It means realizing you've been taught to chase something external. Her looks at the cost of something internal, your presence. Women want to be desired, yes, but not were ripped for existing. Here's what happens. When you stop chasing beauty, you start discerning. You start asking better questions. Does she bring peace or chaos into your life? Does she listen or just wait to speak? Does she complement your energy or only reek to your effort? You stop being the one who's trying to impress. You becometh one evaluating. Vanessa told Rick something. Weeks later, long after she'd pulled away. You're a really kind man, but it felt like you were trying to win men, not know me. That's the core issue. He didn't see her. He saw what Shell looked like and built her into a fantasy. And no real woman can compete with a fantasy for long. Women respect man who stays calm in the presence of beauty, not because he's cold, but because he's composed. She wants to be seen, not solved. She wants to be chosen, not captured. When you stop chasing beauty, something wild happens. Your energy changes. You stop investing too soon. You stop texting paragraphs to one-word replies. You stop making her approval your reward. Instead, you bring presence. Calm, you listen, you ask sharp questions. You mirror her energy, not to manipulate Buto measure. And that presence is what flips the dynamic. So, if you've been chasing, performing, or over-complimenting, pause. Ask yourself, what do I actually want in a woman besides how she looks? If you don't have that answer, you're not dating. You're just seeking approval in prettier packaging. Let her beauty be a bonus, not your blueprint. Because when you stop chasing beauty, you make space for something much more powerful. A woman woe chooses you, not because you gave her attention, but because you gave her a reason to respect you. And trust me, she can feel the difference. Number 2. Make her feel safe. Let's make something 2. Make her feel safe. Crystal clear. A woman's attraction doesn't start with your looks, your status, or your lines. It starts the moment she feels safe in your presence. Not just safe from harm, safe to be herself, safe to speak freely, safe to relax. Most men miss this completely. They think attraction is built by being impressive, flexing confidence, telling jokes, showing ambition, but that's surface level. That's ego-driven, and ego can't hold space. Ego talks. Safety doesn't mean you become soft. It means you become solid. Here's what that looks like in real life. David, 52, divorced, works in finance, smart, successful. Got back into dating after 10 years, out of the game. Met 49. High energy, creative, full of fire. At first, they hit it off. Butch told him something after their third date. You're intense. You're great at talking, but I don't feel calm around. Like, I can't let my guard down. David was shocked. He thought intensity is attractive. But what she was really saying is, I don't feel emotional as if with you. And emotional safety is everything. A woman won't open herself physically until she feels held emotionally. She might flirt. She might play along, but to let her guard down, that requires trust. And trust comes from consistency. Not smooth words, not charm, but calm presence. You listen without interrupting. You stay steady when she's upset. You don't punish her honesty, you invite it. And here's where the Stoics were ahead of their time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed thine." In other words, just because she's been hurt before doesn't mean you mirror that. You don't become reactive, suspicious, or controlling. You stay grounded, not to earn her affection, but to earn your own peace. That peace is what she feels when she's around you, and it's rare. Most men respond to female emotion by either fixing it or fleeing it. Both make her feel unsafe. But the man who stays present in her shows, who listens without trying to control, who doesn't need to win the moment, but holds the moment, that's the man she remembers. That's the man she tells her friends about. Here's the paradox. When you create emotional safety for her, she becomes more sexual, not because you manipulated her, but because she doesn't feel like she has to guard herself from you. And when that armor drops, desire rises, because real intimacy isn't born from performance, it's born from presence. Let's bring it back to David. He adjusted. He slowed down. He stopped trying to be impressive and started being intentional. He said less and listened more. He stopped trying to fill every silence with noise. And Teresa, she relaxed. She started leaning in. Trust built. Connection deepened. Intimacy followed. Women don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. So, how do you make her feel safe? You respect her pace. You own your boundaries. You don't chase her validation. You show her through consistency that your mood isn't determined by hers. And most of all, you remain emotionally sovereign. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you can't control your emotions, you can't protect hers. If your peace depends on her reaction, she can't trust your presence. So be the calm in her storm. Not because you're fragile, but because you're strong. Let your stillness speak louder than words. Let your patience build more attraction than pressure ever could. That's how you make her feel safe. And when she feels safe, she'll come closer than ever before. If you've ever been the calm that helped her soften, tell me this in the comments. I protect peace. Stick with me because in the next part we're going deeper. This next mindset shift flips the entire frame and on say feel it, you won't see women the same way again. Number 3. Lead. 3. How to live rent-free in her mind. Don't perform. There's a difference between leading and performing. Most men don't know it. They think they're eluding, when in fact they're just acting. Acting confident, acting generous, acting cool, and women can smell the difference fast. Performance is rooted in fear. It's the fear of not being enough, unless you prove yourself. So you start entertaining. You crack jokes you don't find funny. You note along when you disagree. You compliment her to keep her, not because you feel it, but because you think it'll work. That's performance. And it's exhausting, not just for you, but for her. Leading is different. Leading comes from alignment, from knowing who you are and moving through the world with calm, grounded certainty. And here's what that looks like. Michael is 48, owns a construction company in Denver, recently divorced, no kids, rebuilding. He meets her behavior. They're about owning your values. When you calmly assert your standards without blame, you send a message that women deeply respect, even if they don't say it out loud. This man respects himself. Epictetus put it this way: no man is free who is not master of himself. When you set a boundary, you're not trying to manipulate, you're airfissing to abandon yourself. That's power. That's emotional sovereignty. The moment you stop bending to keep her interested and instead start noticing who's actually aligned with your peace, that's when you become deeply attractive. Not for being cold, but for being centered. And here's what happens next: she becomes more attentive, more real. Because when she feels that you have boundaries, she knows she's dealing with a man who won't collapse under pressure. And that makes her feel safe in ways that physical protection never could. But here's the trap. Don't confuse boundaries with rules. A boundary is about you, what you will or won't accept. A rule is about controlling her, and that creates resistance. Instead, stay calm, speak plainly, and back your words with action. That's what builds emotional safety and desire. Now, maybe you've been in Mark's shoes. Maybe you've tolerated things to Layer, 46, a therapist, beautiful, sharp, used to being the one who leads you emotionally. On their first few dates, Michael tries hard, too hard. He over-explains everything, tells long stories, offers to drive 2 hours to my their schedule. He's trying to prove something. Leia senses it. She tells him gently, "You don't have to earn this with me, just be here." That was Thucup call. Michael realized he was performing, not leading. When you lead, you're not trying to win her, you're inviting her. You show your direction not by talking about it, but by moving with purpose. You don't ask permission for your opinions, you own them. You're not rude, but you're rooted. Stoic philosophy calls this living according to nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man's hold be one." That's what leading is. It's not a show, it's a standard. Women feel safe around leaders. They feel turned on by leaders because a leader isn't seeking approval, he's creating direction. He doesn't ask, "Do you like me?" He asks himself, "Do I like what I'm building here?" That mindset changes everything. Leia noticed the shift in Michael. He didn't pull away, he simply stopped trying. He listened more, said less. He showed up on time, stopped rescheduling, took the lead in planning, not to control, but to contribute. And Leia softened. She leaned in. She asked more questions. The dynamic changed, not because he became cold, but because he became clear. A man who performs makes women feel like they're being sold something. A man who leads makes women feel like they're rejoining something. That difference is subtle, but it's powerful. Here's how you spot the line. When you're talking to a woman, ask yourself, am I expressing, or am I auditioning? If you're checking her face to see if she's impressed, you're performing. If you're speaking truthfully without fear of the response, you're leading. A woman can fall in love with a man who leads. She might sleep with a man who performs, but she won't trust him because even if he's attractive, he's unpredictable. If your self-worth changes based on her reaction, she can't relax. And when she can't relax, she won't invest. Because trust always precedes intimacy. Performance is about outcome. Leadership is about alignment. Performance says, "I hope this works." Leadership says, "This is where I'm going." You're welcome to comb. Now, back to you. Ask yourself, are you showing her who you are? Or are you showing her what you think she wants to see? Because one earns respect, the other earns silence. And here's the twist. When you lead without performing, you don't just gain her attention, you gain her investment, and she stops evaluating you like an option and starts seeing you like a man with gravity, a man with direction, a man she respects. Because the truth is, most women don't want a show, they want presence. They want someone who doesn't need to impress because he's already impressed himself. If you've ever felt the difference, chasing and choosing, between trying and trusting, I want you to say this in the comments. I stand firm. Stay with me. What's coming next will help you read her attraction cues without needing words. Once you spot this, your confidence won't just rise. It will become quiet, steady, and unshakable. 4. Lead, don't perform. Number 4. See her, not just her looks. Let's be honest, most men stop at the surface. They see beauty and get hypnotized, and they don't even realize they're doing it. The compliments start rolling. You're so pretty, you're gorgeous. I've never seen eyes like yours. And on the surface, it seems flattering, but underneath something else is happening. When a man only acknowledges a woman's appearance, he reduces her to decoration. He's not connecting, he's admiring. And admiration fades fast. Connection, the truth is, she's heard it all before. Dozens of times from men who wanted something, from men who didn't bother looking past the packaging. What most men don't understand is this. A woman doesn't want to be seen only as beautiful, she wants to be understood, she wants to be witnessed, not stared at, seen. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If Somione is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." Now, think about that in the context of when a woman feels like you see her beyond the surface, beyond the curated version of herself. You're not just a man anymore. You become a mirror. You reflect back a deeper truth. And that's rare. Women are constantly surrounded by validation for their looks, social media likes, DMs, smiles from strangers. That's not what makes her lean in. What gets her attention is when you notice how she moves when she's focused, how she pauses before making a big decision, how she shows kindness without needing to be seen doing it. That's what flips a switch in her nervous system, because now she doesn't feel admired. She feels known. And here's where Stoicism comes in. Seneca said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." When you're not captivated by her beauty, when you're grounded enough to look beyond the surface, you're in your own power. You're not seduced by the superficial. You're steady, you're centered, you're aware. And she feels that. She starts to wonder, why isn't he like the others? Why doesn't he try to flatter me the same way? Why does it feel like he sees something deeper in me than even I let people see? That's not a trick. That's presence, and it works. Because here's reality. When a woman feels deeply seen, she lets her guard down. Emotional intimacy opens up. She starts sharing not just stories, but truths. And that is the beginning of real connection. This is why emotional validation trumps physical praise every time. But remember, validation is not agreeing with everything she says. It's not nodding just to avoid conflict. It's being present, being honest, and responding to who she actually is, not who you want her to be. When you notice her thoughts, her patterns, her emotional shifts, she feels safe. And safety builds desire, not in a rushed, impulsive way, in a steady, deep one that lasts longer than lust ever could. So, here's your test. Next time you're with a woman, pause before the reflexive compliment. Instead of saying, "You're beautiful," say, "The way your mind works." When you explain something, you light up. It's powerful. Watch her reaction. That's the difference. Seeing her isn't about approval, it's about awareness. And awareness leads to trust. Because when she knows you're paying attention to who she really is, she starts to feel like she can finally stop performing, too. Now, if that resonates with you, if you've ever been in a moment where you felt more connected to her thoughts than her face, I want you to comment below. I see beyond. And stay with me, because what I'm about to share next will change your way you connect without saying a word. You'll start to lead through energy, not effort. Point 5. Set boundaries she can feel. Number 5. Set boundaries she can feel. Let's talk about something most men avoid: boundaries. Not the rigid, angry kind that push people away. I'm talking about the kind that make a woman feel something she rarely feels these days: respect. Because here's the truth. A man without boundaries is not generous, he's unstable. And women can sense that instability. It doesn't make them feel safe. It doesn't make them feel attracted. It makes them feel like they need to lead. And when a woman feels like she has to lead emotionally, the dynamic falls apart. Let me give you an example. Mark is 52, divorced 5 years ago, rebuilding his confidence, getting back into dating. He meets Jenna, 47, emotionally expressive, sharp, gorgeous. The chemistry is strong, but Jenna has a habit of canceling plans last minute, taking days to respond, dropping little comments to see how Mark reacts. Before, Mark would have chased harder, gotten anxious, maybe even explained himself more, trying to fix things. But no, he's grounded. He's learned what he will and won't tolerate. So, he does something different. He doesn't react. He pauses. He simply says, "I'm looking for consistency. When that's not there, I pull back." Calm, clear, no anger. Angus, what? Jenna shifts. Not because he punished her, but because she felt his boundary not as control, but as clarity. She knew where he stood. She could relax. That's the difference. You see, boundaries aren't about controlling long, hoping she'd appreciate you more. For being nice, butness without standards is just people-pleasing in disguise. And women can see. Performing and something real began. Drop this in the comments. I feel real. Stay with me because what's coming next might be the one shift that stops emotional games dead in their tracks. 9. Your standards turn her on. Number 9. Your standards turn her on. Here's something most men overlook. Your standards are sexier than your compliments. You've been told that making her feel beautiful is enough. That being agreeable, easygoing, and never saying no is what keeps her interested. But in reality, that's what makes you forgettable. Let me tell you about Min, a 52-year-old business consultant in Dong. For years, Min thought that by always saying yes to Lin, his partner of 6 months, he was showing love. He'd cancel meetings to see her, let small disrespect slide, even agreed to things that went against this values just to avoid arguments. But something shifted. Lin started pulling away. She didn't seem as excited to see him. She took longer to respond. Her energy changed, and Min was confused. He thought he was doing everything right. What he didn't realize was this. By constantly accommodating, he wasted her that his boundaries were flexible, that he would abandon his own standards, just to keep her around. Now, contrast that with DY48, who had recently started dating again after early in his connection with Thao, a woman who admired his stability and warmth. He made something clear, not in a harsh way, but with calm confidence. He said, I value honesty. If we're ever not aligned, I'd rather know than pretend. That one line told Thao something powerful. DY wasn't desperate. He had values, he had aspine, and she respected that. What's sexy to a woman isn't a man who bends, it's a man who stands. When you hold standards, not rules to control her, but principles you live by, you instantly shift how she sees you. You go from someone she might use to someone she wants to rise to. That's emotional polarity. Women test boundaries, not on purpose, but often to feel your edges, to see if what you say is real. When you fold, they lose trust even if they don't say it, but when you calmly stay grounded in what matters to you, she feels something different. Respect, desire, safety. Because a man who honors himself invites a woman to honor herself, too. This isn't about being rigid. It's about being real. Senica wrote, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected with trials. Every time you hold to a standard, instead of giving into temptation or insecurity, you're polishing that gem. You're becoming the kind of man who doesn't beg to Bekosin, he chooses, with clarity, with care, with strength. Now, that doesn't mean every woman will stay. Some will walk away when you stop bending. But let 'em, because those who remain, those who feel turned on by your standards, not threatened by them, are the ones worth building something real with. Your standards filter your reality. They act like a signal tower. Women feel them without you saying a word. So, here's the question. Are you broadcasting stability or submission? Before you go on your next date, ask yourself, what will I no longer tolerate? What actually matters to me beyond how she looks or how much she laughs? Because at the moment you answer that truthfully and live by it is the moment you become deeply attractive. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're no longer easy to forget. If you've ever drawn a line and felt her energy shift, not in anger, but in attraction, then drop this in the comments. I respect myself and don't even think about clicking away. What you're about to hear next could be the reason some women stop testing and start respecting for real. Number 10. Be untouchable, emotionally. 10. Be untouchable, emotionally. Let's end this with the one trait that changes everything. Not just how women see you, but how you see yourself. Emotional sovereignty. That unshakable steadiness that turns attraction, introspect, and desire into devotion. Here's what it means. You don't react to every emotion she throws your way. You don't spiral when she goes cold. You don't chase clarity through paragraphs of explanation. You simply remain. That does mean you stop feeling. It means you stop needing. Women are drawn to this more than anything else. Not your car, your paycheck, or your physique, but the energy of a man who won't be moved by her tests, her mood swings, or her withdrawal. Because deep down women want to know, can you hold the storm without collapsing? A man who is emotionally untouchable isn't cold, he's grounded. He doesn't get pulled into proving himself when affection is withheld. He doesn't mistake emotionalist for love. He doesn't cling. When she pulls away, he sees it, feels it, and still chooses peace. When she uses silence as a weapon, he doesn't panic. When she tests his boundaries, he doesn't explode. When she disappears, he doesn't lose himself. That steadiness is rare, and that's what makes it powerful. Epictetus said it best. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to effort matters. And in dating and relationships, how you react is the loudest statement you'll ever make. Women, especially intelligent, emotionally complex women, sense your emotional baseline. If it shifts based on her behavior, she won't trust you. Not because you're mean or unkind, but because you're inconsistent. She doesn't feel safe with a man who bends to emotional pressure. But when you stay still, when your worth isn't up for negotiation, she finds herself leaning in. Why? Because you're no longer just desirable? You're dependable, and that makes you irreplaceable. The moment you stop reviewing your value, stop reacting to approval, and stop giving your power away in exchange for closeness, you'll claim something most men never do: inner authority. That's what makes you unstickable. You don't punish, you don't pursue, you don't perform, you simply walk in alignment. And if that means walking away, you do. Because nothing is more masculine, more rare, or more magnetic than a man who refuses to abandon himself in the name of love. That's not detachment. That's discipline. And once you've lived in that place, no drama, no games, no emotional tug-of-war, you'll wonder why you ever settled for anything else. If conclusion, this video sparked something in you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way, you never miss the mindset shifts that can quietly change everything. Inside, we don't chase, we lead, and we grow together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.